Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm George.
I'm Stav.
That's Pavlos. This is Stav's build part 12. And so far, she's still running. Everything's going really well.
Wait. What do you mean so far she's still running?
So far, she's still running. No issues, no problems. 750 miles on the freshly built motor. However, we do have a couple small things that we're going to be fixing today that we're going to bring up in the video. Two of them being leaks, which one we don't have parts for, which we're waiting for. The other one, Stav's got a line in his hand. He's going to talk about that in just a second. We got bigger injectors that we're going to be throwing on, and Stav's going to be sending out his base file for another base file for this bigger injector setup on this motor. And also, Stav got his exhaust fixed. So 3-inch turbo back going all the way back. Unfortunately, he had a mishap where the back pipe cracked off, the welds failed, and he's been driving around open dump in Mexico for about a good part.
A year.
About a year. So 3-inch compared to the 4-inch, it's going to be a big sound difference. So we're gonna do
better sounding motor.
Yeah, and it's attached to a 12 valve. So we're gonna start this thing up so you guys can hear it. Maybe even give it a rev once it warms up, and then after that we're gonna let it cool down. We're gonna replace the oil line, and then we're gonna throw in the bigger injectors and then chat about those and what the plans are.
So the old oil line, basically, we've removed it on and off probably 2,000 times.
Where's the old one, by the way?
The old one's right over here. Basically, it's a universal 48-inch hose. But, I mean, it started to seep small right on top of the turbo, which caused a little bit of smoke while driving last week. So,
and this lasted how long? How long has this been on the car?
Since I got the car, probably from the time this car was originally built with a 1.8 originally in it.
So this is probably going on 8, 9, maybe even 10 years old, and it's not bad. It probably cost the same thing that you cost to get a new line. Correct. And what'd you pay, and where'd you get it made, Stav?
I got it made at Orm Brothers. It was about $45.
Where are they located?
At Northridge, California.
Okay, and this is about $45, $50.
And it's made exactly to the length I asked for.
Okay, and then also, guys, keep in mind too, for a lot of you guys doing this swap, this stuff is not really expensive. $40, $40 to $50 for a professionally swedged line, AN fitting, stainless steel, and you got something that's gonna last at least a decade. That ain't bad.
Correct. I mean, we've removed it on and off a million times, so just made it custom. Instead of hiding the extra length like the original one was, because it was too long, we just made it custom made to this size.
And one thing I want to bring up, something that Stav had brought it up like a couple days ago that we didn't talk about when we were assembling this motor that was replaced. And Troy, we're gonna have to thank you for this, but I want to take you over to the spare block that we have. Check this out. So whenever someone does a VR6, oh wait, Torque Factory, what's up with that? So whenever someone does a VR6 build, they always talk about, you know, what kind of head you're running, parts, pistons, rods, all that stuff. This is Stav's stock block that he had in the car for quite some time after we had the motor failure. So keep in mind, this right here, your intermediate shaft bearing, there's one, and there's another one in the inside, a much smaller one for the intermediate shaft. Do we have a spare shaft that we can show them? So this bearing here, no one ever talks about changing out during a build. And if it ever chatted about, it's very, very minimal. Change this bearing out. If you're building up a fresh block and you're doing aftermarket, definitely change it, because the old bearings that come out, listen, with a fresh build, if you're replacing main bearings, if you're replacing rod bearings and you're doing a full build, you don't want this to be the thing that you're tearing up the motor for. Ask us how we know. This has become an issue before, and we had to pull things apart to change it out. So keep in mind, backside of the VR, whether it be 12 valve or 24 valve, double check these. Who carries these stuff?
Schimmel Performance.
Schimmel Performance. So definitely check with Schimmel Performance, guys, and they will literally, you can press them out, take the old one out, and then press the new one in, and then the one that's all the way in the back swaps out through this cap here. So this is on the forward side here on the oil galley. So the cap can just be punched out, and then you could just press a new cap in. And luckily, Stav picked up a whole new new bag of fresh caps just in case we're doing a build in the future. But
the problem was we started hearing a noise from the motor, which kind of sounded like a rod knock, and we're like, oh, you know, just put a motor together, rod knock, it sucks. But ended up being I drank
12 valve.
No. Anyway, so like we ended up pulling like the oil, the filter. There's no metal in the pan. There was no metal in the filter. So I'm like, can't be rod knock. We checked the caps, look good. We ended up pulling the timing cover off, and we noticed when you when you pull the cap off, like the intermediate shaft ended up having play, which it didn't have
a lot of it.
Yeah, which it didn't have before, and I've never seen that before, nor have I ever replaced that bearing. We called up our buddy Troy, who happens to go through VR6 like we do with all his builds, and he's like, "Oh, I happen to have that bearing from Schimmel. We installed it. No more noise."
Actually, the motor is now super quiet than it ever has been before.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's and at 3,800 wheel, it needs to be.
So anyway, guys, on a more serious note, keep in mind when you're doing your builds, especially on the VR6's 12 or 24 valves, take a look at the intermediate shaft bearings, take a look at the condition, and if you're doing a build, just change them out. It's really inexpensive versus having to
$32 on his website, and they came in 2 days.
Yeah, and then on top of that, aside from having to pull the motor, strip a bolt, whatever the case may be, you're saving yourself a headache. Do it once, do it right the first time, and definitely use the right parts. So just keep that in mind.
You're saying do it once, do it right, put a 12 valve. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Anyway, guys, we're going to start this car up real quick so you guys can hear what it sounds like with an actual full exhaust that doesn't have a dump on it. And then you'll hear what the 12 valve sounds with a 3-inch catback. And then we'll start installing all the parts as we continue. She's a little dirty, but start her up now with an actual exhaust.
See if it'll start. Pray.
I don't care what anyone says. Listen, we love the 5-cylinder, but the VR6, man, you can weld soda cans in a unison to this thing, and it still sounds amazing.
I know, but that's what you have on your car, soda cans, no?
So that is the 12 valve with 3-inch straight pipe. I think he has a muffler.
I have a muffler, yeah, not a straight pipe.
What muffler you got on there?
Magnaflow?
Magnaflow, okay.
Yeah.
So 3-inch with a Magnaflow muffler. Sounds pretty good. It sounds not raspy, but like really throaty.
Yeah.
Like a soup, almost like close to...
Nah, don't say, don't. I don't have a vape. I don't have a vape.
But the VRs sound amazing, guys. And all right, let's shut her down. We're gonna throw the injectors on, get the bass tune over to the tuner, and then see if we can start this thing back up, guys. So. What do you think, Paul? Sounds good. All right, let's, oil line's good, it's not leaking. We're gonna throw on the bigger injector. Stav, what size injectors do you have on now?
I have 1350 Lucases on there right now, so 120-pound injectors.
And then what are we going to now?
We're going to be putting the FIC Fuel Injector Clinic 2150s. I technically bought a hand-me-down from George when what happened is these flow way too much for George's car because it makes this car.
No. On a more serious note, guys, these are the 2150s from FIC. They're too short to fit in the 24 valve because they need a long body injector. And even with an adapter, we tried tuning them, we tried making power with them, and just the spray pattern was all over the place. So these actually are a perfect length because they're the exact same length of what the 12 valve needs. So Stav's going to be running 2150s from FIC.
So the 12 valve is so used to making so much power, they put a regular.
All right, guys, we're done. We're throwing on these injectors, guys.
Injector. You need to order a long body.
Done. Stav's fired. We're done. We're throwing on these injectors.
Devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang, bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang, bang, got my hand, bang, got my hand. Call
All right, so we have the injectors pretty much in, but the FICs are just a 1/4 inch shorter than what the old injectors were. The really cool thing is there are these brackets that were made that were holding this fuel rail in. But as you can see, the fuel rail, the hole on it doesn't line up anymore. So it's about a 1/4 inch to almost a 1/2 inch difference. So we're gonna take these brackets off, grind off the excess, drill a new hole. So this is where we can kind of snug everything down and everything can be against the motor where it needs to be with the 2 brackets. So it's going to be 2 of them for Stav's motor. Yeah, that's the one cool thing. I'll say this about the 12 valve is that on my 24 valve, I had to kind of Dremel out the holes to fit a bigger injector. With here, it's in the intake manifold. It's not actually in the head. So you have a lot more access to the injectors here. So if there's one that's shorter, a little bit longer, you can make an adjustment on the bracket that mounts the fuel rail versus actually grinding into the head. So that's the one cool thing about the 12 valve.
Well, there's a lot of cool things about the 12 valve. I mean, that's what happens in 1993. They originally designed this motor to take big injectors because it takes big power. Right. Where in 2003, 10 years later, they still never thought a 24 valve could make power.
It's like the same song that just keeps playing all the time.
Yeah. Lowered expectations.
So, again, the 2150s are in. We're going to stop, you mock everything up. We're going to grind it off.
I'm going to grind off the bracket, and then I'm going to re-drill it.
My workstation is all over the place. All right, so guys, we're going to grind down the brackets, get the fuel rail installed. But the one thing that we did miss is the actual adapter harness for the injector to Stav's standalone harness. So we just ordered those adapters now from Fuel Injector Clinic. Unfortunately, it's not going to come until Monday, but that's the only thing that's going to be left to allow us to start this up and start driving it with the base, the new base software that Stav has for these injectors. So Stav, what's the overall plan? We get these injectors going Monday, car gets firing again.
So the point is to get the car firing, put even more miles on it. When we go pick up the RS3, the whole goal is, like, when your RS3 is done next week, we're going to drive this car out to Vegas, and Nick's going to be, the tuner at iROS is going to be further progressing the tune on this car, and we're going to get everything working, calibrated, probably making around 21, 22 pounds of boost, and then just slowly going.
That about does it. We have the new FIC 2150 injectors in. We just need the adapter harness, which Stav just ordered. Hopefully it'll be here in a couple days. Brackets are adjusted, grinded down, new holes. Fuel rail's in pretty snug. New oil line's in. I think we're in business, Stav. We just got to wait for your adapter harness and then your new software file to come in for your base, and then maybe get this car down to Vegas for some tuning.
Yeah, and then Monday the Mocal oil cooler is coming in.
Oh, that's true, for the driver's side. So we'll be installing that on part 13.
Yeah, part 13.
Part 13, installing that in. And then once we just eliminate all the leaks, which pretty much that one's done now, so it's not dripping off the turbo anymore. Get the 2 gaskets, the new Mocha oil cooler, the sandwich plate in. Then we should be in business. Yep. How many more miles till you're comfortable till you get on the dyno, Stav? You're at what, 770 now?
750, 770. I mean, just until we go to Vegas, because the Vegas would be another 200-mile trip, and then we're not gonna get on the dyno, but we'll get it base filed, and if it's running, good, we'll just start turning up boost. We'll just schedule a dyno day. I'm not too worried about the dyno. I'm more worried about the drag strip, buddy.
So guys, this concludes part 12 of Stav's vid. We got pretty much everything put together. Again, think about what we said earlier today about the bearing on the intermediate shaft. Hope you enjoy this video, guys. We got a few more coming this week. We still haven't gotten a chance to pull the trans on the wide body. So as soon as Stav's leak is done, I really like to pull the trans on the wide body, refresh the clutches, and get back on the dyno and crack 1,000, 1,100 wheel if I can with the new fueling setup on the motor. And then hopefully Stav this season could start drag racing with his, which...
Next month we're going drag racing.
Oh, we still got to install, Stav, your DSS axles in the rear. So the fronts are on, but the rears still have to be installed. We still have the stockers.
A rear diff upgrade.
Are we going to talk about that at all?
We are going to talk about that, but we're not going to tell what diff we're talking about. We're going to leave it very secretive.
Till the episode comes out.
Even then, we're going to wrap it in plastic. We're not going to show you what diff it is.
That's not true. We're going to go in depth in the next coming videos about Stav's diff upgrade, what it bolts up to, what modifications have to be done, and where you're able to source it. Stay tuned, guys. Episode 13 is going to be coming later on this week. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'm George.
I'm Stav.
This is Malaka MotorSports, guys. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys soon. Thank you. Thank you for watching.